This is a quick guide on pawpaw pollination. Pawpaws are fruits that have a rather unique pollination strategy. Many other insect-pollinated plants rely on sweet smells and vibrant colors to lure in bees for pollination. Pawpaws, on the other hand, are a bit stranger. Their flowers are indicators of their odd pollination strategy, with maroon to wine-red flowers that reportedly smell rancid or yeasty. Instead of attracting the usual butterflies and bees, their color and faint smell work together to draw in various species of flies and beetles. But it doesn't always work out. In some situations, natural pollination can be pretty awful, with pollination success reaching less than 1%. When that's the case, hand pollination can boost yields significantly. So, let's go into exactly how you'd pollinate a pawpaw. First off, it's important to note that pawpaws are mostly self-incompatible. That means each tree needs to be pollinated by a different, genetically distinct tree. If you have grafted trees, make sure to label which is which so you don't end up trying to pollinate one tree with an identical clone. If you're just growing seedlings, keep track of which tree you take the pollen from. Pawpaw flowers have both male and female parts. The female stage is receptive first, and pollen is shed later. To get an idea of what stage the flowers are at, you might have to peel back the petals a bit and look inside. On this flower, you can see the green stigmas in the center, surrounded by tightly packed, round stamens. You want the stigmas to look nice, green, and fresh. The stamens will form what looks like a little ball in the center of the flower. If this little ball is tight, hard, and not dropping any pollen, then the flower is probably still good to be pollinated by hand. Here's a flower that's a little bit further along. The flower is noticeably different looking from the last. The petals are more open and kind of flaring out. There are also granules of pollen visible on the petals. In a few days, that flower will look like this one. The stamens become much darker and are shedding even more pollen. The little tight ball is basically completely gone now. Once you've identified a few male flowers you want to work with, you can brush their pollen into a little container, or just pluck a couple off and use them as little bowls. Next, you're going to want to grab a tiny paintbrush with soft hair to swirl around in the pollen. The softer the better. The pollen grains are pretty big and sticky, so you should be able to see them clinging to the brush. Once you're all primed with pollen, go hunt for some receptive female flowers. The flowers start off a paler greenish yellow and then mature to a very dark burgundy. The receptive females you're looking for will tend to be at the lighter end of the spectrum. Then start sticking that pollen very gently into some flowers, and make sure you get it all over the stigmas. You can peel back the flowers to check to see if they've reached the right stage, but it's quicker to just go for it if you have a lot of trees to cover. Just be careful and check that you're getting into the center where the stigmas are. So that's how you pollinate a pawpaw. It's not exactly rocket science. To set yourself up for success, aim for growing as many genetically distinct plants as possible. If you have more than a few dozen trees, you'll probably get pretty good fruit set without pollinating by hand. But if you have 3 trees, you might have to bust out the little paintbrush every spring. Just keep watching the trees, because they bloom quick, and it's hard to tell when they're even flowering from far away. Pawpaws tend to flower over a couple weeks, so your best bet is to just keep coming back and do at least a few days of this. With your efforts combined with the beetles and the flies, you're bound to get some fruit. Alright, good luck, and I hope you get to eat some pawpaws in the fall.